And greetings, everyone. This is Shonda with Closing the Divide, and I'm so delighted that today we're going to present to you Greta Ross. So, our feature spotlight is on Greta Ross today and her company, Mind, Body, Soul Shift. And so, she is here to discuss her health journey with us, and I couldn't be more thrilled. Greta has lost 100 pounds, at least 100 pounds. And as such, she has some lessons to share with us. She has been featured on WFAA, WFTV, and numerous articles and publications have featured her story. I am just delighted and thrilled that she is here with us today. So. I can. I can hear you just fine. I am so excited to see you and speak.
I know. Finally.
Yes, I know. So I'm so thrilled.
Awesome. So tell me what's going on with you guys. I was, kind of on your website looking around and everything.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, there's a couple of different avenues that Closing the Divide gets into. And so as such, we partner with other entities to help students that are in, varying ages, all the way from middle school to high school and beyond and into college. And as well, we work with partners to help those in the community through a myriad of efforts, usually by securing resources or helping them with health initiatives. And so we kind of do that line of work. And so I am just really excited to be involved in that effort because the community has such a myriad of needs.
Such a need.
Absolutely. And so, which is why I was so attracted to your profile and your story, because I'm just really thrilled with first of all, with what you've accomplished personally. Let me just say that off the top.
Thank you.
And secondly, what you're doing in terms of outreach. And so we'll get into that as well. And so before we begin, I wanted to ask you, is it okay if we, in the editing of this video, use images that you shared publicly and on your social media?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please do.
Okay. Yes. And then I also wanted to ask you, once we get into it, how do you feel about inquiries regarding your age? Are you comfortable with that?
You know what? That is my bragging point. Because my birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be 63. So that's always my bragging point.
Listen, I was absolutely shocked when you first shared with me your age. I was like, no way in the world, because your skin is amazing. You look marvelous, and your muscle tone is out of this world. Let me just tell you. So, but I wanted to just secure that with you before.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
We're gonna raise you really good, girl.
Oh, thank you so
Until
much.
I say so.
Indeed, I accept that compliment. Thank you. I just wanted to share with viewers that you've had such a phenomenal transformation. And so can you share with us, where you were in life when you decided to embark upon a health journey, and were there any precipitating events that kind of led up to that? Where were you in life when all this started?
I was actually in a very unhealthy place, a very, very unhealthy place. I was violating a lot of principles, and I'll explain that further. But the type of job that I had was very stressful. And so I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, and I was just doing so many things wrong. And the next thing I knew was like the weight was just gradually just coming and coming and coming, and I just didn't do anything about it. And so I went to the doctor because I had acid reflux and I couldn't lay down to sleep when I did finally lay down. So I went to the doctor and discovered that I had very extreme high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol, and I was also borderline diabetic. And when I got that news, I was devastated. I got in the car and I cried because the doctor said I was at risk of having a major heart attack or stroke at any moment. So that really scared me. So I was actually forced to do something at that point. You know, I could have stayed where I was and died prematurely, or I could have what I did, which was to change my lifestyle.
Well, congratulations to you. And I know that it's very interesting how sometimes life circumstances can force us to make life or death decisions in that way. And so I'm very just rejoicing with you that you were able to make the decision to do what you need to do to embrace life. And so I'm just thrilled and just so in awe of your journey. And so thank you for sharing that. And so can you also tell us kind of what process you began to take once you made up in your mind that, you know what, I'm going to take control of my health? What kind of was, what was your process in terms of food choices, eating choices, activity? What was your process, and what did you decide to ultimately do to help you accomplish your goal?
After I sat in the car and I cried, I went home and I shared with my husband what the results were. And at that moment, I didn't know what to do. Honestly, I didn't know what to do. So we started walking, because it was so intense that I was afraid that, with the next step, I could just drop dead. That's how severe it was. So I just started walking. So my husband and I, we got out and walked that very first day when I came home from the doctor. And believe it or not, we walked 30 miles unintentionally.
Oh my gosh.
Unintentionally. Let me please stress that. What happened was we lived in Rockwall at the time. We walked 15 miles in one direction. And we realized we had to get back home.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now,
so it was very,
about a pivotal moment. Oh my gosh.
And you know what? I didn't realize that I was setting the bar so high, but here's what really happened. As I was walking, I was talking and praying and asking God to give me the steps to take in order to save my life.
Wow.
That's what it was. That's what it was all about. I was seeking God, and every day I got out and I walked and I walked and I walked. So when I started, I weighed 237 pounds. And at the end, now here today, I'm 120 pounds, and the weight has been on for 8 years. I haven't gained 1 pound. I've been even trying to gain a pound. I haven't been able to gain a pound. My metabolism is so high, but I've been at 120 pounds for probably like the last 5 years and haven't gained 1 pound.
Well, that is phenomenal, because I just really believe that, when you ask God to intervene, I just believe that He heals at the root. I mean, it's just not halfway, it is complete. And so I really appreciate your share with regard to that. I also wanted to ask you, I know that walking certainly was a big part of your transformation. So one of the questions that I had down too was I was going to ask you what role, if any, your faith played. And so you kind of alluded to that. But I also wanted to probe a little further, in as much as I know that on your social media networks and in your communication with people, you always allude to and refer to kingdom principles.
Yes.
It's a constant with you. And so
yes,
with little tidbits, but I wanted to dig just a little bit and probe. And so can you tell us a little bit about, kind of the evolution of that, where that comes from, the origins of that, and what significance that plays, not just in your health journey, but holistically transcending through your life?
When I discovered principles and how valuable they are, because we don't look at the Bible as being a book of principles, but that's really what it is, and if you follow the principles, then you get the results, but I think that I think that because in all my life, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the Bible. I didn't understand, the whole church thing, and, just all of that together, because no one really broke it down. It's like, be obedient and do this and do that and don't do this and don't do that. And, and it was like, but why? So when I started to understand principle, because God established everything on principles, everything that happens, everything that goes on in this world is because of principle.
Absolutely.
But I like to explain to people this way. Gravity is a principle. because everybody can relate to gravity, okay? But if you went on top of a 10-story building, the law of gravity no longer applies if you step off the edge of that building. The principle is null and void at that point. But if you were going to fly, then another principle would have to take place, which would be the law of lift. Okay, so of course we can't fly, but the law. So if we walk off of a 10-story building, we know what the result is going to be. So don't walk off a 10-story building. That's the principle. The principle is keep your feet on the ground, because gravity is designed for us to do that. But when we violate the principle and go on top of a 10-story building and think we can fly, then we have violated the principle of gravity. Yes. So when I start to understand, and I put it in the simplest form for me, because I started looking at every scripture in the Bible as a principle. Because God will tell you one thing, but when you look at it as a principle, he also gives you what the result is. Okay. So if we follow the principle, it's like kingdom principles to me means kingdom culture. Okay. So you can go to New York City, you can go to Washington, D.C., you can go to Seattle, Washington, you can find a little Havana, you can find a little Cuba, you can find a little Jamaica, you can find a little Chinatown in almost every major city. Mm-hmm. But what they've done is they brought the culture of their country here.
Sure.
So they have the authentic food because they import it. The restaurant has the ambiance of Jamaica. Mm-hmm. The people are speaking the language of Jamaica while they're communicating in the restaurant. Everything about that culture in that restaurant, but when you step outside the door, you're back in America again. But while you're in the restaurant, you have the culture of Jamaica. Yes. And all I see is that God wants us to have the kingdom culture here on earth. That's why Absolutely. He says that we can have heaven on earth.
For sure. But
it's a principle. It's a principle of the culture of heaven.
Yes.
And so that's why kingdom principles are so important and to me, because I look at it, if we live according to kingdom principles, we would know what to do. That's what got me to 120 pounds was kingdom principles, because I started to eat better through kingdom principles. I started to make sure that I understood why my body needed to rest and the type of foods that I needed to eat to fuel my body. Kingdom principles.
I love it. This is so very timely, because I really am a supporter and definitely an appreciator of the late Dr. Miles Monroe.
Oh.
And he is, are you familiar with Dr.
Oh, hey, when you mention his name, I got chills.
Sure.
And no, so, I adore, I just love him. I love his teaching. As a matter of fact, he's probably one of the only people that I really actually listen to on a regular, because it's so relatable for me now that I understand kingdom principles. But what I had to understand about that in the beginning was he came from a culture of kingdom. So it was easy for him to live kingdom culture, because the UK is kingdom. They have a king, they have a queen, you know what I'm saying? So they had to do things according to principles.
Absolutely.
So he taught me that even though I'm here, I can still live kingdom culture.
For sure. And he was certainly a great resource. And the reason why I'm probing here is because many times, as you mentioned, Dr. Monroe, even though his culture that he grew up in was based upon kingdom principles, although an earthly one, he was able to, through the guidance of his parents and having the input of, the Bible and reading, and through his own studies, he was able to then, make the connection of what it meant when the Bible kept referring to the kingdom of heaven. So as such, he was able to make that transition. So my question here is to benefit those who may be listening, who may or may not be able to easily make that transition, because as you know, as we're growing, I didn't always understand it either. But for someone who is coming into this and listening to this and going, wow, this is foreign. We're talking about weight loss here.
Yes.
The, how is it, and maybe some of your resources address this, but I just wanted to maybe give the audience something to grab onto in terms of why this is so pivotal and why it's so important and significant in your daily walk, whether you're trying to, you know, if you're trying to improve your health or maximize
Hmm.
your health, whether you are embarking upon, trying to come out of debt, whatever improvements you're trying to make in your earthly life,
Hmm.
definitely have a connection to the kingdom principles. And so
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, I would be remiss if I neglected that part of your journey because it's so it's so embedded in your conversation and communication with people. And so I just want people to understand why that was so important to you. You mentioned that when you went on that walk after having gotten the news from the doctor that you and your husband were on this walk, and so as you were walking, you were conversing with God and you were praying, calling out to Him, saying, "Please help me." And so, did your understanding of kingdom principles occur after that? Did it start before? At what point did you start to make a connection between your earthly walk and kingdom principles?
It was probably a few months in. It wasn't anything, it wasn't like a light bulb moment in reference to like, when it happened or anything like that. It was just really listening and paying attention to um, what I already knew, what was already embedded in me because of, like you was mentioning about Dr. Miles Monroe upbringing. I was raised by old people.
Sure,
And
sure.
I don't say that being disrespectfully. My grandparents are well up into their 80s and 90s raising us as,
Oh, wow.
grandchildren and great grandchildren. My grandfather was 109 when he passed away.
Wow.
So they were elderly. They instilled a lot of things in me that I didn't even know was kingdom, because you have to understand that they came from the slavery era, so they didn't know that it was kingdom. They, certain things that they just taught me, and it just kind of stuck with me, and I knew it was always different. I knew it was something about my upbringing, but I couldn't quite figure it out. But then as I was walking, I started going back to my childhood with things that my grandfather would say to me and my grandmother would say to me, and it started making sense. And I'm like, wow, I started making the connection.
Hmm.
And then I started to realize this is everything that I've been taught. I already knew it. This is all God anyway,
Sure.
you know. So it was like, duh, so but I was very grateful for the things that I was taught and the things that I saw growing up, not realizing that it was kingdom all along.
For
But
sure.
my grandparents couldn't express that because they didn't know that's what it was.
Hmm.
they,
Hmm.
they had no idea, but
Sure.
they taught me. And again, I always knew it was something. Like when I connected with Dr. Miles Monroe, instantly it was like an instant connection,
Hmm.
because again, I connected with him in my childhood, because some of the stuff he was saying that he grew up with was some of the stuff, same things that I grew up with. So that's how come I made the connection. Well, this is kingdom. So
Sure.
at that point, I just started kind of doing more exploring about kingdom, and what it was that God really wanted from me in my life, in reference to kingdom principles,
Yes.
and what I needed to do in reference to my diet, my eating habits, my sleeping habits. And then it actually went a step further, because my business was actually birthed during that time.
Sure.
Body soul shift was actually, because that's what I did. I made a complete shift. I
Yes.
went from one mindset to a whole new mindset. And,
Yeah.
and that was just so, and the whole kingdom principle um, was really what got me to that place.
I think it's
It,
amazing
that's what,
how God will give us revelation and cause, illumination through experiences that we've already had, and then just feed our understanding. And so,
mhm.
I really kudos on this journey. I have chills right now, if you can believe it. So I'm going to forge forward. You mentioned the birth of your business, Mind, Body, Soul Shift, and so I wanted to just kind of speak to that. And congratulations on the birth of your business, by the way. What is kind of your focus in your business? What is it that what are the objectives that you seek to accomplish, or what is it that you do with the birth of your business?
Well, during the time that I was walking is when, God was sharing, because my mind was being transformed,
Hmm.
my body was being transformed, and then I had a closer relationship with God. So all three things were being affected all at one time. And so it was, the shift was made. And so, and I didn't realize that it was going to become a business at that time. I just knew that things were just changing. Everything was shifting. And then when I started, just kind of like really going to the gym, because I didn't go to the gym for a long time. And when I started going to the gym, people started noticing, the transformation of my body. And so my daughter said to me, she says, "Mom, why don't you, contact the news outlets and let them know your story?" So I did, and I started kind of getting a little media attention. But at that time, I wanted to help people understand what it was going to take to to get to where they desire to be. Everybody don't want to be 120 pounds, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that you have to have a shift in your thinking, in your mind, and so that way everything else will follow. So getting to the root of things with people was really the source of my of wanting to help people. I wanted to get them to understand that, this is really a mind over matter thing, and it may not seem like it is, but if we can get to what's really bothering you, then we can fix the problem.
Yes. Yes.
Not taking a pill, not going, not doing all that, but really get to the root of it, and then that way we can fix it, because
Yes.
all that other stuff is not going to fix it.
I
And
believe
so
that.
I had to fix the problem, because the doctor wanted to give me pills for my high cholesterol, my high blood pressure, but that wasn't going to fix the problem. That
Hmm.
was going to put a Band-Aid on it. So when I decided that I wanted to really fix it and not live with those diseases, then that's when I took things. I said, I don't have to do that, and I don't have to take the medication either. So during my whole transformation, I didn't take any type of pharmaceutical drugs for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or anything at all. I did it all holistically, God's way.
Hallelujah. That
His
is
way.
awesome.
Yes.
I love it. And, I just, in this line of work, and so usually in working with my own clientele, sometimes I find that it is, challenging for individuals to grasp that it is not just physical. I think that lots of times, they're focused on the physical because that's what you see
Mhm.
in the physical realm.
Yes.
But, do you find too that sometimes it's a challenge for people to recognize that we are holistic beings, that we are multifaceted, and we're not just a physical body? And if so, why do you think it's so challenging for people to kind of to grasp that and to really embrace that truth?
Well, I think it's probably because of what they've been, what they've been told all their life, and what they believed about themselves all their life. I think that has a lot to do with it. And then they just feel like, well, hey, either I'm too old, or this is just a way of life, or, I just have to live with this. And then, okay, I'm not, believe me, my sister-in-law is a doctor, so I'm not bashing doctors, but I think that if we really get back to the root of things, which is God's way of doing things, we would have a different result. And I think that when we really understand um, principles, then that's what, to me, that's what makes it easier to make the shift.
Yeah,
When you understand principles, it's like you can't eat unhealthy and think you're going to stay well.
for sure, for sure.
You can't, you just can't do it. So, and you can't take the same medication for 10 years and think you're going to get healed. You've been doing it for 10 years and you're not healed yet.
Yeah.
So getting people to understand, let's look at the problem. Let's not be in denial. Let's fix it. Let's not put a Band-Aid on it. Let's fix it. But I think it's because of their upbringing and just believing. I mean, because if you look at the scripture, I believe it's in Luke, where Jesus was speaking to the man by the pool, and he says, "Well, why can't you get in?" And he says, "Oh, well, every time I go to get in, somebody gets ahead of me, or the water stops staring." And he had every excuse, and Jesus just said, "Well, just pick up your mat and walk." And people don't realize that, it sounds so simple, but it is, because that's a principle.
Absolutely. The truth is
That's a
always
principle.
simple.
You know, the man lived with that condition for 30 years. He didn't have to live with that condition. So my whole thing, I ask people, do you want to be well? Because that's what Jesus asked him. And do you
Ooh,
want to be
powerful.
well? Do
That is
you
so
want to be
powerful.
well? If you want to be well, then pick up your mat.
Yes. Yes.
If your mat is whatever's eating at you.
Yes. I appreciate that. And so it just seems that you infuse truth with love, and you don't want to allow people to stay in denial. And really, only when we embrace, accept, and start to walk in the truth,
Mhm.
that is, I find that is the only way. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering in the wilderness. You're just wandering in darkness, and really get into the cyclical pattern of, that is unhealthy, as you mentioned. I love that you
It
use that
is.
word.
It
Yeah.
is. Very
So I want to inquire and ask you, what what do you love most about your journey?
um, I think what I love the most is that I have defied so much um, in life, just in general.
Mhm.
And I was just talking to my mom right before I came in to get on with you, and I was sharing with her that, I had a complete hysterectomy over 30 years ago, and I wasn't on any hormonal therapy at all, because at that, even 30 years ago, I just
Wow.
refused to take pharmaceutical drugs. I refused.
Right,
So even
right.
years ago, I didn't take, and I had a board of doctors trying to convince me that I should take them and why I should take them and
Mhm.
the side effects of not taking them, so I just, took my chances. So
Okay.
even defying that, but, there was a few side effects that I found out that I had to live with. But one of them was my cholesterol was going to run a little bit higher, because I did have that. But I've always defied the, things. So when I started the journey, I was 55 years old.
Wow.
And
It's amazing.
so, I could have said, well, you know what, this is going to be too hard. I'm 55, I may as well just go ahead and just live with this. But I decided that even though I was 55, that I still didn't have to live with it. I wanted to be
Mm.
well. And I had to do whatever it took for me to be well. I had to be willing to give up my mat in order to become well,
Yes.
because I had to become well.
I love that.
So I had to do something to become well. Being 55 at the time on this journey and telling people my age, even now, I think this is probably the best part of my journey, because I have a birthday in a couple of weeks. I'll be 63. I go to the gym 6 days a week, and I eat healthy. And that's at 63. I'm not on any medication. I do take supplements, but they're plant-based supplements,
Okay.
because I believe in that. And but that's the most, I'm most proud of that, because I look at other people that's my age,
Sure.
and I see, they're on all types of medication, and
Right.
they're not mobile, and I just look at them and it just breaks my heart. And I just wanted to say, please let me help you.
Yes.
I've been where you are, and I tell people, this is not textbook.
Mhm.
This is not something I heard. I've lived this.
Yes.
I know exactly where you are. I know exactly how you're feeling in your heart, in your mind. You feel like you can't escape this. So please let me help you.
Let's see. Okay. I want to I really appreciate your passion for helping others. And I can definitely recognize that and appreciate that you recognize the blessings that you have. It's amazing. And I appreciate that there's still an element of humility there that gives you the passion to want to reach out and assist other people. And you can be compassionate towards them. I think that's a beautiful thing. What do you still, if anything, do you still struggle with anything on your journey, and how do you overcome those obstacles?
I think that my biggest struggle is that I am too dedicated. And I know that
That's a
sounds
fault.
but I'm too dedicated. Let me give you an example.
Please.
People will reach out to me and they'll say, I have a problem with this, and I don't know what to do, and so I'll commit myself to them.
Mhm.
I'll just say, for example, I had 19 women. I had 19 women. I had 19 women that I was texting 3 times a week, all separate text messages. It wasn't a group text,
Right.
individual text messages,
Right.
words of encouragement to keep them, to either jumpstart them or to keep them on the path of wellness.
Okay.
They didn't ask me. It was just, I just felt the need. I'm just so dedicated to helping people that
Mhm.
I just do it. So I sometimes it gets overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I mean, one lady, I've been doing it for 2 years.
Wow.
I mean, she
Wow.
doesn't teach me for 2 years. I've been doing this. So, it's like, okay, well, let's turn this into a business. So, but before that, I was just texting 19 different women Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm so dedicated, and I'm just so loyal to them, so loyal to the cause, because I want to see them well. I want to see them live a lifestyle, a totally different lifestyle, not just be well, but a lifestyle,
Sure. Do
you
you run
know?
up against any in your dedication? And because I know that if you're texting and reaching out to even 5 women, let alone 19, it's very time consuming, and
It is.
certainly it can. And if you don't monitor it, it can interfere with your life. And so, as such, um, what lessons have you learned through that process of the dedication? Because I heard you use the words "I'm too dedicated," and
Yes.
so that comes from, there's some feedback there. And so what lessons have you learned through taking this task on independently, and trying to mitigate your passion and compassion for people, and balancing that with regard to your own life?
Well, one of the things I learned from Dr. Miles Monroe is when you're serving, you serve from your saucer and not your cup.
Ay, de bajada. Mm.
When you
Wait a
start
minute.
to
That was powerful. I had a moment.
when you start to serve from your cup,
Yes.
then you know that it's time to sit back and reevaluate.
Yes.
And so that's I had
Powerful.
to come to learn that.
I think that's powerful. And I think that says it all. That is just, I mean, that illustration rendered me speechless, because it was just so powerful. Seriously, because when
Yeah.
you think of, my cup, overflows, and so
Yes.
really
Yes.
it's from the overflow that
Hmm.
we should serve, as opposed
Yes.
to what's in the cup, because what's in the cup is essential for our own function. Right. So I appreciate you sharing that illustration, because it was just completely powerful. So in your journey, I know that you are assisting with other people. So I kind of want to get into some of the resources and the things that you're doing, and the offerings that you have for the community. And so I want to, let's see, I can just take a look here, and you can kind of give us some more detail
Okay.
on this. Let's see. Bear with me one moment. Okay. I think so. I think this is what I want to do. 1 second. I'll find it for you. Okay. And I don't need to share the sound. Okay. Let's see if I can take a look here. And so again, these are your before after pictures, which I find absolutely impressive. Look at these
I know
guns.
people,
I'm just
people,
like,
that's not
wow.
you. Like, yes, it
Amazing.
is.
Fantastic. And so I want to also just kind of, this is, you wanted to kind of mention these. I want to highlight this. And so if you can tell us a little bit about what we're looking at this point. It says, this is one of the offerings that you have. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, yes. Thank you. I'm so glad that you wanted to spotlight this. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I was in the gym this morning, and as I'm on the treadmill, I was watching the monitors, the TVs, and CNN had on that they predict that by January 1st, they will have 400,000 deaths from COVID.
Wow.
And that's due to the cold and flu season that's about to hit us. And it's coming, and we know it's coming, and people or, waiting for the flu shot, or they're just not doing anything or whatever. So I really was compelled, because I haven't heard any news media or the CDC, nobody has been talking about building your immune system.
Correct.
Which is, one of the things that keeps our bodies fighting for us. We need a strong immune system. It's essential that we have a very strong immune system. Most people don't even know how to even start to build their immune system. So I put together a workshop that I'm hoping people will be interested in, on how to build a strong immune system. Because with the cold and flu season coming up, those numbers are probably going to be pretty accurate. And I'm sorry to say that, but I'm almost sure that they're going to be pretty close. And a lot of people who have underlying conditions are going to be affected by it, especially any type of respiratory problems. That's why we need to work on the immune system, so your body will be able to fight that, along with some other things that you can do to build your immune system. I wanted to do the workshop because, again, no one is talking about building your immune system. They're talking about the vaccines that, and the flu shot and things of that nature, but they're not talking about what's really essential that's going to help keep you alive, which is, having a very strong immune system. So I want to share with people what they can do to boost their immune system. It's just 9 simple steps. Anybody can do it. There's nothing hard about it. It's just making little changes in your life. And it's simple. I mean, you could either, fight colds and flu or COVID, or you can make small adjustments now before the season hits, so that way you will be ready for it.
And so for this workshop, is it, a face-to-face? Is it online? Is it self-paced? How will the workshop be administered, and when will that workshop take place?
It is going to be, I hope it will be via Zoom. That's my goal, because I want people to be able to come in and ask questions and be able to interact. So I'm looking at September the 29th, the end of this month, at 6:30 p.m. Here on Zoom, so that way people can get this information. It's a lot of really, really good information. One of the things that I had to put in there, only because I'm just so kingdom principle, is I had to go back and look at the things that Jesus did in his day.
For sure.
The food that they ate, what they called medicine.
Yeah.
Their medicine was food. It was food. Pomegranate.
For sure.
That's you wouldn't look at pomegranate as being, something that's good for you. I mean, how many people actually really eat pomegranate? Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
No. But it's one of the healthier things that was back in Jesus' day. So I even give a list of foods and herbs that people could use, teas and things of that nature, to help build their immune system. You know why? Because it's kingdom principle.
Okay. I love that. And I do think that people are going to find tremendous value in what you're offering. And I think it's absolutely timely, for sure. I would love to know and be able to share on screen how people can register for your event. If it's going to be via website, can you share with us a little bit on how that registration will take place? And
Sure. They can register on my website, which is mindbodysoulshift.com. And if to scroll through there, not just the tab on the left-hand side at the top, 3 little bars. You can click on that, and the menu will pop up, and you can go to online courses and scroll down, and you'll see this very same picture right here of the workshop, and you can register there. And it will be at 6:30 in the evening on Zoom on the 29th. And the price and everything is there. So please, please, please go and take a look, because I'm going to tell you, everybody needs this information. Everybody does. I know we're going to get into it, but I had shared something back in October that God had given to me. And I shared it I had an internet TV show. And so I shared it on my show because, God says people have to be prepared. Sure. And so when COVID hit, it was like, They weren't prepared. They didn't listen, you know.
Right.
And I know that we're going to cover that, but you're going to see the workshop on there. You're going to see an online course on there, which is going to be, you know, it's still going to be helpful. Even in this time, even in the middle of this pandemic, this information, you still need this information because people are really going through.
For sure. And so I thank you for that. And so I encourage everyone to register for this workshop because I know that I am, for one, am interested as well, because if this is, you know, you've infused it with kingdom principles, I can depend on you to do that. That's awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely.
And it's the same thing with the online course that's infused with kingdom principles as well.
Sure. Fantastic. So up next, I want to also, let's see if we can, again,
there it is.
This online course right here, this is one that I'm very interested to hear your feedback on with regard to the 5 pillars of health and wellness. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. You know, I had an internet TV show, Mind, Body, Soul Shift, and you know, I was just kind of featuring different people because I wanted everyone to see that, you know, y'all see me every week, but I wanted to feature some other people like my mother-in-law who was 80, who goes to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and you know, Miss Dorothy. Not Miss Dorothy, I'm sorry, Miss Cindy Carter, who's a 84-year-old water and aerobics instructor. So I wanted to feature other people on the show. But as I was doing the show, I got this vision. God showed me this vision about the 5 pillars. Well, actually it was 7, but he said 5 of these actually affect our lives on a daily basis. And we don't even understand, we don't even realize how they affect our lives on a daily basis. So I started kind of digging into the word and kind of, you know, getting the principles out of the scriptures about these 5 principles. Because of course, what we eat or what we don't eat affects us. Our emotions affect our health, finances affect our health, environment affects our health, and our spirituality affects our health. So I put it all together and I did them individually, an hour each. At that time on the show, because what I found out was when I was talking to people, and it went back to you know, getting to the root of what their problem was. Some people had bad eating habits, but then some people had emotional problems that was causing their weight gain. Some people had financial stress that created their weight gain, you know. And some people were just in bad environments or a hostile relationship or a hostile workplace that caused them to have bad health. So I started putting them all together, and I'm like, you know, these things affect us on a daily. And this was even before the pandemic. So once the pandemic hit, it was like, you know, it kind of like just shook the pillars. All the pillars were just shaking because I kept seeing, you know, even I saw a news report where they were like, in 1 month, I want to say it was like March here in the local area in Dallas, that there were 1,200 domestic violence calls with the police, and 1,200 in 1 month.
That's staggering.
So the emotional pillar, because now everybody's in the house together, you know, you're getting on my last nerve, you know what I'm saying? But we have to learn how to handle things.
Absolutely.
But because we don't follow the principles of the emotional health side, which leads to the mental health side. So if we can get our emotions under control, then we can keep our mental health in control. That's why we have so many mental health issues, because we don't control our emotional health.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And I wish that people could see that they are tied together like a pulley.
They're interchanged. You can't separate the two. So that's why this course is so important. And people have to understand, even when it comes to your finances. I think it was King Solomon says, money answers all things.
Listen, and he would know for sure.
Money answers all things. So when people say, well, the love of money is the root of all evil. Yes, it is. But money answers all things. So we have to know how to be a good steward over what it is that God has blessed us with.
Absolutely. And I think that I think people get it twisted. They want to clump, you know, having wealth and, you know, having, you know, access to money as, you know, in the same saying as, you know, the love of money is the root of all evil, but people are missing it. It's the love of money. It's not money.
Right.
It's the love of it. And so
exactly. So even when I say to people, you know, that money answers all things, they're like, well, you know, this money is evil. No, because King Solomon says it's in the word of God. He says that money answers all things. So we know we need money.
For
We
sure.
just have to know how to manage it. But
Absolutely.
again, people weren't taught. They don't
So
know
true.
how. So again, we have to learn that, because if we don't, we're going to suffer. And then it's passed on generation after generation after generation.
Listen, that thing is a stronghold. I believe that because it is absolutely a stronghold to hold on to the belief that money is evil. And I
Yeah.
really believe that that belief or holding on to
Hmm.
the fallacy in that
Hmm.
has impacted people's mindsets such that it has impacted the level of poverty that we see. I'm a
Absolutely.
believer. That was my 2 cents. I'm going to keep moving, but you hit it right on the head. And I'm appreciative that your online course really touches that pillar, because I think that we have to break that
Mhm.
thought so that
Yes.
people can really hear the truth
Hmm.
that it's not evil to attain wealth or to have access to wealth. It is how you revere it. Now, if you're setting it up as an idol, then yeah, that's a whole different issue. That's a
Absolutely.
problem.
Hmm.
But in and of itself as a resource, no, it is not evil. So this also is online and accessible through your website.
Yes, ma'am. It's on the online courses. You can go there and you'll find it, and you can register there.
Okay.
That will be held. I'm starting the course October the 6th. It will
Okay.
be the first and third Tuesday
Hmm.
at 6:30 here
Hmm.
on Zoom, and 6:30 at here on Zoom, and then I'm hoping that people will come and register on the site, because they need it. Now, I also have the individual courses. So someone might say, I really
Oh,
want to dig into
okay.
the financial pillar,
Okay.
and that may be all they want. So if they want to dig into the financial pillar, but I am offering all 5 of them. It will be 2 hours. Each one of those pillars will be a 2-hour session on
Okay.
every Tuesday,
Hmm.
first and third Tuesday of the month, starting
Awesome.
October the 6th.
Phenomenal. Okay. And then lastly, I wanted to see if you can share with us a little bit about this resource. It's called The Struggle Was Real Until.
Yes. And let's go back to that where people think money is evil.
Hmm.
That's a struggle.
Hmm.
But until you understand the principle, until you
Yes.
understand, and when I was writing this book, it's an ebook. And when I was writing the book, and I didn't even want to write the book, honestly, and it's so funny because every time, I get some instructions from God, it's like pulling teeth with me. He's like, why do we have to go through this all the time? Let's write the book. Let's write the
Right.
book. So, and I was working in financial services at the time,
Uh-huh.
when I wrote this book. And what drove me to write the book was, I saw that people were ignorant to how money worked and the purpose of money, and what we were supposed to actually do with it. And,
Yes.
so as I'm going out, dealing with people, getting to them to understand, plan for your future, your children, learn how money works, so that way you won't have to be struggling. Um, I just found that the people just weren't interested. They didn't want to learn, and it just hurt me. It just broke my heart,
Hmm.
to the point not realizing that you're going to have generations of poverty going on in your family because you're not willing to even just learn some
Hmm.
simple principles that can change your life.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and put it in the book. And so I finished writing the book, so I didn't even know what to call the book. And so it just made sense, because until I discovered the principles of how money really worked,
Hmm.
I was struggling. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm wealthy and I'm a million. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is I was actually struggling because I didn't know, and I knew the principles. It wasn't because I didn't know. My grandparents taught me, but if you can have 11 children and only one person is working, you definitely know how to manage your finances. Okay,
Sure.
that's all I'm gonna say
Sure.
about that.
Yes, that's very admirable, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I laughed, I got tickled because lots of times, in relationship with God, you can have that. It's very real to have that back and forth sometimes, and sometimes when
yes.
you're praying, it's just the relationship dynamics kind of tickled me. But I just certainly understand. But I'm very grateful that you persevered and that you were
Yeah.
obedient to what He shared with you to do, and I believe that. many times when he shares with us to do a task or to complete something, we in our humanity may not see, the fruit of it. We're just planting the seed or we're watering
Right.
the seed, but we may not see the full culmination of the fruit being, coming to bear from our effort. And so I just want to just issue you that encouragement, because it is the circumstances that are surrounding us in this time right now, in this day and age, 2020 of COVID-19. I can, oh my gosh, I think that everyone is feeling the heat,
Yes.
and a lot, for anybody that's astute, for sure, there's some reevaluation taking place. And so
Yes.
I too believe that this is a resource that's going to be of tremendous value in that regard. And so I'm very excited about what's to come.
And it's a very short read. It's not, it's not a novel or anything. It's just 48 pages. And, and I kind of go back to the beginning on, how I learned, even before I got into financial services, just watching my grandparents, and how they managed the house and all the things that they were able to do. So, and I share all that in the book because I want people to see that even though they came from nothing, that, I was born and raised in a 6-bedroom brick house in 1957, which was kind of unheard of back in that time, for African Americans to even own a 6-bedroom house, and it's still in my family to this day. So I share that with people because I want them to know this is generational. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Yes.
That the house is still in my family. I can move to that house right now today if I wanted to, because this will always remain in my family. That's a legacy that he left for us, his grandchildren. My grandchildren can go and live in that house.
That's fantastic.
So I share all that in the book, and when people read the book, I mean, it's only 48 pages. It will bless you. It will really bless you to be able to see principles.
Love it. Love it. I think that's phenomenal. And thank you for reiterating that theme all throughout this particular conversation, because I think that people need to know that it's foundational.
It is.
To operate on principles, because we can accept them in the physical. We can accept the law of gravity. We can accept the truth of, boiling points and melting points and freezing points. The same is true in the spiritual realm. And so I appreciate you infusing that throughout this conversation. So is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I just want to say that I want people to take their health serious. In this day and time, there's just so much, and yes, we have COVID today, but we don't know what 2022 holds or 2025 holds. But what I can tell you that if you take care of your health will take care of you. That is the greatest asset that we have, is our health. And we have to understand that every time that we eat or drink, we're either fighting a disease or we're feeding a disease. Yes. We're either fighting a disease or we're feeding a disease. Yes. Every time we eat or drink. So I just want people to be mindful of what they're taking in their bodies. Get out and walk 30 minutes a day. I have a simple, and no one can tell me no when I say this to them.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you with this. Everyone spends time with God. Everyone spends at least 10, 15 minutes praying or just talking to God about something every day. So what I encourage people to do, I don't care if you're just talking to God for 15 minutes a day. Get outside your door and walk in any direction for 15 minutes while you're talking to God. And then come back home talking to God. Right. And you've walked 30 minutes.
I love that.
God. You got 30 minutes in, you're improving your health, you're getting closer to God. How can you say no to that?
Right.
I challenge anybody to say no to that.
And
you're getting healthy all at the same time. And if anyone, would like to reach out to me, go to my website. You can get in contact with me through my website, mindbodysoulshift.com. You can catch me on Facebook, Instagram. I do have my own page there where I, give vital information
Mhm.
for your health. So please, I have a newsletter. Go to my website, check it out. I have a lot of great things on there that will help you to get on the path and stay on the path of wellness.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Greta Faye Ross, thank you
Thank you
so
so
very
much. I appreciate you.
No
Thank you.
problem. I appreciate you as well. And I thank you for your time. I wish you well. And I look forward to hearing more about your offerings. And so I look forward to that. Thank you again. Have a
Thank you
beautiful
so
day.
much for your time. I appreciate you.
Sure. Enjoy. Have a great day.
Thank you. Mwah. You take care.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.